Hello and welcome back to the channel, and for those that have been patiently waiting for hot tub videos, you're in luck. We've got a couple of videos coming up. This one is about setting up your hot tub, checking it over, getting it up and running and working well. The next video is for if you're conscious about how much it's going to cost you to run your hot tub, because money is a key issue with running a hot tub like this. And so the next video is going to be how much it actually costs to run, and also how to save money running it. So that'll be coming up, but for now let's get the hot tub set up. Now, it doesn't matter which pump unit you have, you've got to set them up the same way. We'll come back to the pumps shortly because there is some work you need to do there before you plug everything in and get it all up and working. But the first thing I've done on mine, the Hydrojet, I've taken all of the jets out and given them a clean, and also a couple of the rubber valve pieces, O-rings I should say, needed replacing, so I've done those. Now to take these out, all you do is push and twist and they pop out if you've got the Hydrojet model. Also take this out, make sure it's clean. There isn't really any seals or anything. You can check the rubber on here just to make sure, but that should be fine. That's straightforward. The main parts are your base, which is this one here. So again, this one is the Hydrojet Pro. They're all pretty much similar on this. I do have the Monaco as well, but this one I've blown it up and I've been testing for leaks using the soapy water technique, and I've done a couple of repairs on it and they're just drying at the moment. And don't forget, there is a complete video on how to do the repairs. If you want to see it, I'll put a link in the description at the bottom. And the other one that a lot of people forget about is checking for leaks on the lid, on the top here. So I take it out of the cover and check it for leaks. And I've found a few leaks on this one. Again, I don't know if I remember mentioned previously, but this is a second-hand unit that I got specifically to make videos, and it was pretty badly treated. But even so, a few repair kits and some sealant and it's done the job. Actually, the Bestway sealant, the Lay-z-spa vinyl repair kit, actually is a pretty good kit. It dries fairly quickly. It's got loads of different size patches and things that you can cut down and make fit. And that's what I've done here. Best to do it on a nice hot day like today when the sun's out, because then it helps the patches dry really quickly, which does make things a little bit easier. So that's the patches done now. Onto cleaning. Let's take you inside the hot tub. So this is the easiest way I've found actually of cleaning it. Prop it up on a chair or something like that, and then you can get right inside and the water then all runs off and down. What I tend to do is, you can see these are where I've removed the jets. Spray as much water as you can into all of the jets, get that running all the way around, try to get that cleaned out quite nicely. At the same time, the base, giving this a clean over with not a scouring pad, but one of those green rough cleaning cloths that you use in the sink. That tends to get off most of the residue. Now remember, when you put the hot tub away, you did use talc, didn't you? Yeah, because putting talc on it helps stop mildew, mold. It dries up the last little bits as well when you put it away, and helps the rubber stop sticking to itself as well. So that's quite an important one. When you put it away or you're taking it down for any length of time, definitely want to be doing that. And you can see this one has actually come up in pretty good condition. I haven't had to do very much. There's the usual sort of mark here that comes from people that go in wearing makeup or sun cream, things like that. You do tend to get that. Now there are products out there that can help clean that off. There is something called a magic eraser, I think it's called. I've never tried one myself because it's not bothered me too much, but if you have, pop a comment down the bottom, let everyone else know whether it's worked, whether it's worth getting or anything like that. But otherwise, we're all pretty much cleaned up inside here. Don't forget to clean the lid as well. Getting inside here, cleaning it up is a good thing because you can get bits of dirt, mildew. You can see there's a bit of grass stuck in here that catches inside, and the worst thing is that will constantly be in contact with your water potentially if that starts to deflate. So you do want this nice and clean as well. Something that's just as important as fixing the leaks and things like that, it's also getting your egg or your pump ready again. And what I do is I use this, the Kelvin Easy Scale. Again, I'll put a link down the bottom. It's a great little add-on that works with all the different pumps, all the different fittings, things like that. You'll see at the minute I've actually got the fittings on to work with my my Hydrojet version, and you can see very, very simple. All you do on this one, you just push the pipes into place like that, push them onto there nice and secure, and then use a descaling that you would for kettles and things like that, and run the pump, turn it up to temperature, get it running through, and it'll help clean out all that rubbish that might have accumulated, and it'll help descale it ready for the season ahead. I'm going to set this one up and then I'm going to show you it running. I've done this before, I've shown you how to use it. Now I do have the casing off mine because I have been fitting a slightly different control system onto mine because I wanted the newer controllers. So I completely gutted the inside, replaced it all with the newer version. But it all works in pretty much the same way as most of them. All you do is we add the descaler into the Easy Scale unit, fill it up with water, then run the filtration and the heaters to let the water heat up and get it circulating. Now remember, on the older eggs, it's very simple. You just press the filter button and the heater button, and it's a pretty similar thing on some of the newer hydro pumps as well, and I think it's the same buttons on the brand new one as well. I have got one of those units somewhere, so I'm going to fill that up now. Now I'm also going to be checking for leaks, which is why I've left the casing off. It's a great way actually of using this to test for leaks. Make sure we're not getting any water coming in at the bottom where we've got a leak on any of the heaters or things like that. So it's a good opportunity to test that. I'm going to put my descaling liquid in. Now try not to touch or get into contact with it because it is a chemical, and it's quite a nasty chemical as well actually. If you do have sensitive skin, definitely use gloves for this bit. So that's the chemical in there now. I'm just going to cover that back over. Right, now I'm going to fill this up with water and let's turn the circulation pump on. I'm filling it fairly near the top and then let it seep through, and actually check for leaks first as well. And sure enough, I found my first leak before even turning it on. Water was dripping from this bit, and actually I've just peeled it off. I'll show you. That's what was left of one of the seals, and you can see it's just breaking up in my hands. So we need a new rubber seal on there. fasten that back up and we should be good to try. Didn't have enough water in. You can hear it's cut out because it didn't see any water flow. That's what the beeping's all about. It's an EO2. I'm just going to reset and switch it back on again. Now it does also have my hot tub controller, which is why the sound is a little bit different, and it's got different beeps and controls. I'll put a link to that down the bottom as well if you want to remote control your hot tub. Let's switch the filter function on and get water starting to flow through. Well, I've had it running for about 5-10 minutes. Temperature is up to the top. I've turned it up to 40. No more leaks. We're still getting a bit of air in the system, so if you do that, turn the pump on and off a few times, especially when it's this type of connector, which is just a push fit. It does help get rid of some of the air in the system, and you can hear the pump quietens down after a while. You can still see a few little air bubbles going through the pipes, but that's not too much of a problem. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get a jug and I'm going to take this out and show you what has been flushed through the system since running this kind of cleanup, and you'll see why it's so important to do that before you start using your hot tub this year. Okay, I've had it draining for a bit. Remember, you did have the descaler chemical in, so best not to put your hands in this because it is a quite a strong chemical. What you want to do is, once you've emptied it out of the chemical, now run just some fresh water back through it again. But just for the purposes of this, if you take a look in the bottom of my bucket here, you can see quite a large amount of sediment, and this has been sat in the pump. Now, I did actually do this before I put the pump away as well, and it just shows how much we do live in a very hard water area here in the northeast of England, in the particular area that I'm at. So it is particularly bad, but there is also, I'm not sure if the camera's showing it, like a oily film that I did want to get rid of as well. Actually, there's a bit of scum, you can see it just in the top of the easy scale as well. Hopefully you can see that, and that's got it nicely cleaned out. I'm actually going to run another couple of solutions through it just to make sure it's absolutely clean before I start hooking it up and filling it onto my hot tub. That's the next thing. Run a few more of these through it using the easy scale, and then I'm going to attach the main tub itself. Got everything in place now. A couple of things to check before we connect up. First of all, make sure these rubber seals are good and tight and pushed up against. On the older egg, the seals are on the inside of the plastic. Let me just take in closer. You can see the rubber seal on the inside there. You can get replacements of those and they are well worth it. If you need to, you can unscrew this completely, take it off, get the old seal out and sort that as well for your air connection as well. Back onto mine here, and those are now lined up, almost ready to go. Now what I do recommend is a little bit of this silicone lubricant. Now it's not WD-40 as in the normal WD-40, this is silicone. And what I do is I just put a little bit on the threads here, and it does help them go on, because you'll find that these do get quite stiff and you do not want to put too much stress onto them because they will crack and cause leaks. I'm just looking and making sure that these ones aren't cracked actually, because if these do crack then they want replacing, because they won't get the seal tight enough and you will get leaks. Now they're attached, put the plug in, make sure the plug-in's down there, and we can fill it up with water. And now I've got all the water up and it's sat happily between the min and the max markers. I've put the Hydrojet nozzles back in again. Now the next thing to do is to put the filter on, which should go inside here. Very simple. Unscrew, make sure you don't lose rubber washer. You can see, nice clean filter. Fit it in, put it back on, and then we just screw it into place in the tub itself. Let it fill up with water. I tend to move it around a little bit, try and get some of the air out, and then just attach it. Doesn't need to be very tight. There we go. And now what we can do is we can turn our filter on and check that it's running through correctly. So I'll just press the filter button. Hopefully it won't cut out. Yep, I can feel water flowing through there quite nicely, and you can hear the pump is actually quietened down, which means that it's managed to get most of the air out and it's not cutting out, so it's happy with the water flow. You're not getting an EO2. And now we want to get the chemicals all set right. Now a lot of people struggle with this bit, but it's very straightforward. First of all, I always use this, which is the scale prevention, because I'm in a very hard water area and it's quite bad for scaling up the hot tub. So a bit of this to the water right now should help stop that. And then I use this, which is the stabilized chlorine granules. This is to do the shock treatment, and this is important. Before you use it the first time, you must shock it, which means add a large amount of chlorine to it, which will shock treat, kill any bacteria or anything that's in the water whilst it heats up. This is important to get right the first time. So always on the back there's a dosing guide, so you look up your pool volume or your gallons and then how much you add to carry out the shock treatment. So don't test with a test strip or anything like that first. This is important. You just do the shock treatment straight away. So I'm going to go and get a teaspoon, measure this out, and we'll get the hot tub shocked. I've measured it out. Now I'm adding it without dissolving. You can dissolve it first in some hot water, but basically I'm going to use the hot tub's heater and also the circulation system to mix that around and get it dissolved in, because at the minute it's just sitting on the bottom. We don't want that. So I'm now going to add some of my descaling solution. This will just help battle lime scale. There is a dosing guide on that as well, which I have done for a lot of years, so that's why I haven't measured that one. I know that that's the way that I've used it for years. And now I'm going to turn on the heaters to my hot tub. Give them a few seconds to come on. And then I'm going to turn on the circulation, or the air jets in this case, and it'll mix all of these chemicals round and get things all ready. Now that's done, I'm going to leave this. You can see it's a bit murky. That's mainly from the descaler. That will calm down, but now we need to leave it, now that we've shocked it, 24 to 48 hours. So bear in mind, it's important, you shock it, you prepare it, then you wait 24 to 48 hours. So don't expect to use the hot tub straight away. I'm going to keep an eye on it using my hot tub manager equipment. We can see the current state of things. We can see the water temperature is currently a cold 17, but we can see that the two heaters are turned on, and it's going to go up to a temperature of 36 degrees. You can see the heaters and the water pump are active. So we're going to leave that and come back, and I'll show you how to do the testing for the pH levels and just balance it, ready for the first use. Right, so I've left it 24, actually it's been 48 hours since I did the shock treatment on it. So what we can do now is that's gone wrong, never mind. So the plan now is to test what the pH levels are like, and then we can start balancing the chemicals, which is going to be how we're going to maintain it going forward. So I'm going to show you what we're going to do. We're going to test it and then work out what we need to do. Here I've got the chemicals that I use. These are the chlorine tablets. They're going to be the main ones that we balance. So these are the key ones. Now you see I've just bought a generic brand. To be honest, they're all the same. So just look for the right size that'll fit into your dosing unit. I'll show you that in a second. So that's our chlorine. I have this one, anti-foam, which is quite useful if you do start to get foaming, which is generally because of oil on skin, sun creams, things like that. Couple of drops of this will get rid of that foam as well. Particularly bad when you run the jets and things like that. And these two, pH minus, which is a reducer. Now that's the main one that I need, because that's the one that I tend to have problems with because of the water in this area. The other one was our stabilized chlorine granules, which I showed you last time. I don't use those now because I only use those for the initial shock treatment, and for now I'm probably not going to need the pH reducer. The main thing I need is my testing strips, and I've actually bought a few different ones to test and compare. So I've got these two here. I've got Suds Online, which is quite a well-known brand, and then this one, which is Happy brand. And the Happy one will do bromine, free chlorine, total alkalinity, pH and water hardness, and the Suds Online will do free chlorine, pH and total alkalinity. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do both, give you a comparison, and then show you what we need to do to get the hot tub balanced correctly. All the test strips work in a similar way. You can see they've got the test markers on them, obviously depending on the brand and the number of different things that they'll do, and then all you do is you put them in the water, hold them for a few seconds, then bring them out. You tend not to shake them, so let's just put these both in, give them a few seconds in the water, bring them back out again. Now just one thing to watch, these can stain, so just careful with clothing and things like that. I'm not too worried about the edge of my hot tub. So now what you do is you read them in order. You can see on the Suds Online pack, very straightforward. Top one is our free chlorine, middle one is our pH, and the bottom is total alkalinity. And you can see on this one it shows where the OKs are, which are pretty much down the middle. And then what you do is you compare the colours. Now my top one is very faded, so I would say free chlorine is very low. Middle, we're looking on the high side of pH, but total alkalinity I would say is around about the OK mark. So that's interesting. So our pH is a little high, but our free chlorine is very low, so we need to fix that. Let's just do a comparison and have a look at our happy test strip. Now similar to this, we'll go in order. So comparing it to the top one, the total bromine is, well, it's off the scale because we're not using bromine in our hot tub. Our free chlorine, now on this one it's showing our free chlorine level at a very high level. You can see 0 up to purple. Our middle total alkalinity, that's looking around about the middle in the OK mark, which is good. Our pH is showing very high, and our water hardness is also showing high, so that's quite interesting. The only one that throws us out there a little bit is our free chlorine, which doesn't match up, but it does show we need to make some changes. Now just a point here, if you get these out of position, so for example our pH isn't right and our total alkalinity is not right, that means our chlorine levels will be difficult to set. Now I'm going to say that again, if you don't get the other values right, you're not going to get your chlorine levels right. You almost have to get the pH balanced and the other values balanced before you can get your chlorine working right and working sufficiently. If you don't get those two set, you'll find it's very difficult to get the chlorine right and to keep it balanced. So the first thing that we really need to do is we need to reduce our pH. We need to get it into the orange, into the OK mark. And at the same time, I also want to reduce our water hardness as well, because that's one of the biggest problems I have here. So the way we're going to do that, water hardness, if you remember when I shocked the tub, I used one of these, which is a scale stop. That will help reduce the hardness. So that's the first one we're going to add. Then we're going to drop the pH down by using the pH reducer chemical. And the way that I always introduce these chemicals to the tub is turning the hydrojets on, so it's circulating, getting a really good water flow, and then add them tablespoons at a time. Normally on the back of them they do tell you the dosing guides so you can measure it out, but if you just do small amounts and just test a few times, get it right, you should be able to get the hang of it. So I'm going to put the hydrojets on. You can see we've got foaming, but that's slightly expected because we haven't got the chemicals balanced. Balancing the chemicals does help stop foaming as well. And like I said, the first one I'm going to go for is the scale stop to reduce our water hardness a little bit. I'm just trying to find my my dosing cup here. I'll get that and then we'll add that. I've got it in my dosing cup here. Just pour that in. Give it a little rinse. We'll just let that circulate in for a minute or two. So I've had that circulating for a few minutes and I've retested using the happy test strips, and you can see the bottom one, which is our total hardness, has dropped down quite considerably. See if I've got the other test strip. It's faded out, but you'll see it's lower on the scale now, which is much better. So I'm quite happy with that. It's in the OK mark area. Still a little bit on the high side, I would say, so a touch more could be added, but I'm going to leave that for now. So that's our water hardness. Now we want to address our pH level. It's still very high, so I'm going to use the pH reducer to bring it down, and use the same again. Turn the jets on, and then we add our, and in my case mine's a liquid pH reducer, but you can use granules. Okay, been running it for a few minutes now. I'm not worried too much again about the foam. This will calm down a bit once we get all of our chemicals right. And I'm going to use another test strip, and let's see what that's done to our levels. A few seconds in, again our hardness is down in the range we want. Where's our total alkalinity? So our alkalinity is now sitting much better. Our pH, I would say, is still high, so I'm going to reduce it down again. And this is what you do, you balance it slowly. Buy plenty test strips, they're not that expensive, and once you've got this right the first time, it's easier to balance afterwards. Don't go trying to do it in huge jumps each time, because that's just not going to work. So I'm going to get another batch of our pH reducer, just to bring it down that little bit more, and that should get us in the range we want. So I've turned the jets off, and you can see the foam starting to calm down now. So like I say, don't worry about the foam too much. It'll calm itself down, and as you get your chemicals right, you'll find that starts to disappear anyway. You can use a bit of the defoamer, but I don't find you need to use it very often. So let's take a look at our happy strips. So our free chlorine is still quite high, but it's getting towards the tub OK level, which is good. Our total alkalinity is bang on in the middle of OK. Our pH, now this one, it's difficult to read, but actually it's in the orange zone, which is the pH OK, around about 7.2 to 7.8. And our total hardness has come down as well. So I'm really happy that we're almost there with our balancing now, especially compared to where we started with. And now what we want to do is we want to set it up how we're going to deal with our chemicals on a longer basis, and that's where I'm going to use this for dosing, where I'm going to put the blocks inside it and let it float. Now you may have one of the dosing attachments that actually go on like a filter onto the side. It doesn't matter, they all work in the same way. What you do is you put chlorine tablets in and allow them to slowly dissolve over time. And here's the chlorine tablets. Now again, if you've got sensitive skin, I would say wear gloves when you do this. These do tend to be quite strong, especially not when your hands are wet or anything like that. But all I'm going to do is put one of these into here, like this. Put the lid back on the tablets, because they are quite potent. Pop that on there, and you can see what you can do is vary the amount. Now this will just come from practice. Now I find I don't need it on very much once I've got the chemicals set right, so that is probably going to do me. And now all I need to do is every few days just keep checking with my test strips, and I can then make sure that I maintain the chlorine in the right level. Shouldn't need to use too many of the other chemicals. Now we've got the pH in the correct level, we've got the water hardness in the right level. It should just be a matter of keeping an eye on the chlorine and adjusting our chlorine tablets and dispenser accordingly, and we should be fine. Again, occasionally a bit of anti-foam might help if it starts to foam up a bit too much, but you can see it will calm down on its own generally if you leave it to settle. So that's not too much of a concern. And there we go, that pretty much covers it. I know it's been a long video, this one. Don't forget just to skip your way through. Do check the description below, because I'll put links to all the products that I've used, all the different things, the easy scale, the chemicals, things like that. Also the patch kits as well, I'll put them in the description below, so you can click on those. They're Amazon affiliate links, no cost to you, but I get a few percentage on those sales, and it does help me make these videos and help the channel along as well. So if you can, use the links in the description below, and I'll see you in the next video where we're going to look at how much it costs to run a hot tub. So join us for that next time.